Well, we're into hour number 2, and he's with us for 30 minutes. Joining us from the Fox Business Studios, he has the #1 show on Fox Business with its premiere. The #1 show, because he's the hardest-hitting contributor on Fox television. He's the one guy that I can agree with 99% of the time. I don't agree with myself hardly 99% of the time. I'll tune into something I said a week ago and kind of go, I didn't mean the way that sounded. But Judge Andrew Napolitano is just amazing. Multi-time best-selling author, former federal judge, constitutional lawyer. And he's with us for 30 minutes to talk about Elena Kagan. The more we learn about her, openly anti-gun. She praises what Robert Bork called the worst judge in the world, this Israeli judge who calls for judges to be activists, to restrict free speech. She calls for restricting free speech. Obama using executive orders to try to ram through carbon taxes and on the coal plants. Now he wants to do it. We've got 8 senators telling us, that's in Fox News and Reuters and other publications, that he may use an executive order to legalize all the illegals. Which is pretty unconstitutional. So we're going to talk about it all with Judge Andrew Napolitano. Judge, good to have you here with us.
Pleasure to be here, Alex. Thank you for the kind things you said. You actually promoted me. I'm a former life-tenured state judge,
state judge.
Federal judge.
How about grand UN judge? They, Kagan would like to have us under UN control, she said so.
You know, it's frightening to hear that she has said those things, and one can only hope that they were the musings of a young lawyer, because if she still holds those ideas that we should have judges like they do in Europe who can outlaw certain types of speech and compel certain types of economic activities, that authority comes nowhere from the Constitution. You and I have criticized George Bush, who claimed that he got authority as president from some source. He wouldn't say what the source was other than the Constitution. It was absurd, and almost every time he claimed that, the court itself knocked him down. Now we have a would-be and probably will be member of the court who is claiming that the court has authority from some source other than the Constitution, and that they should use it according to their political predilections. This alone is enough to block her from being confirmed. But the Democrats have 59 senators. I'm sure she'll get in no matter what she says.
Well, what about the quote from her 93 law review where she publicly wrote that if we don't like speech, we will, quote, disappear it. And now Obama openly announces the Internet electronic kill switch under cybersecurity. The FCC proposes black boxes in our homes that filter what we can see and that tracks everything we're doing. I mean, you talk about the bottom falling out that you've always warned about as a constitutional law scholar, that once you go over that threshold, that there's nothing there underpinning it. Historically, we always accelerate into tyranny. What's your take on her confirmation, and will she get confirmed? We've seen national polls of less than 38% support her. And what do you say about Obama's move to openly take over the Internet?
All right, a couple things. First of all, the concept of a box in the house rings of the Chinese government and rings of George Orwell's 1984. And it is inconceivable that that could be constitutional under the law, because the threshold of your house makes you the king of your castle. And if the Constitution is going to be followed, the government can't enter directly, physically, or constructively without a search warrant from a judge. That's the law. I don't know that she would uphold it that way, but I believe that a majority of the Supreme Court will. Secondly, regrettably, unfortunately, I believe that she will be confirmed simply because she is the nominee of a Democratic president, and the Democrats have 59 votes in the Senate. They don't care what she says. She will, of course, tickle their ivories when she says progressive things. That's with an uppercase P in progressive, like you have just quoted her as having said, because the Democrats don't believe in freedom, and many Republicans are in the same boat. The big government crowd doesn't believe in freedom. They believe in power and in conformity.
Let's get back into that when we return, and I want to talk more about your TV show, because this is so important. I mean, liberty is what is most popular. The message that Andrew Napolitano is putting out is winning in the court of ideas. We're going to be skipping this network break coming up, so Judge Andrew Napolitano will have plenty of time with us. He's with us until the bottom of the hour. He just finished taping his show that will air Saturday on the Fox Business Channel. It premiered last week to the highest ratings of any show on the Fox Business Network. And my friends, I mean, I've said I can find no fault with Judge Andrew Napolitano. I mean, he exposes the world government. He exposes the false left-right paradigm. He stands up for the Bill of Rights and Constitution, no matter, how politically incorrect it is. And he is just such a great researcher and a fighter for liberty. And the fact that out of the gates, his show is #1. What does that say? Chris Matthews can't get any viewers. Why does Fox News have conservatively 5 to 10 times, depending on the show, the viewers of Chris Matthews on MSNBC? It's because no one wants to hear establishment statist, socialist, globalist lies and propaganda. And, compared to the rest of Fox News, I mean, Judge Andrew Napolitano is, like Glenn Beck, and the rest of Fox is like Chris Matthews. I mean, I'm sorry if I had to use the analogy here. And so that he's got top ratings. I mean, I knew it was going to happen. I mean, I told him off air last time I was on. I said, watch, you're going to be #1. I said, guaranteed, because the people are hungry. And so talk about the success, and then we're going to get into Obama's increasingly imperial presidency that, according to my research, is exceeding anything we've ever seen in this country. But first, the second show coming up this Saturday. Tell people about it and what the success of your transmission means.
Well, the success of our transmission means a couple things. It means that you can take a show from the internet and bring it to the TV screen. It means that there is a thirst out there for a focus on the government that has a bias in favor of human liberty, that believes that the individual is greater than the state, that the individual has natural rights and an immortal soul, and the government is just an artificial creation based on fear and force, that the Constitution means what it says, that government is best which governs least, that the people are entitled to a government that stays within the confines of the Constitution, and that the Constitution was written to keep the backs off the people. Now, none of those is a radical argument. Those are words, for the most part, from founding fathers and statesmen throughout the country. Unfortunately, they don't resonate to the government. They resonate to people who watch the government, which is why I refer to myself, half seriously and half in jest on the show, as a night watchman. My job is to watch the government under cover of darkness and report to whoever wants to watch the show when the government steals liberty and when the government steals property. And as you know, Alex, and you've been a pioneer here, governments of both political parties, I should say government of the one big government party with its Republican branch and its Democratic branch, steal liberty and steal property every day. When I attacked the Bush administration for this, there are a lot of Republicans who get their noses out of joint. This morning, when we taped our show for this weekend, Congressman Dana Rohrabacher, a right-down-the-middle conservative Republican from Southern California, former speechwriter for Ronald Reagan, looked at me and said, almost all Republicans in the House of Representatives now believe that the war in Iraq was a mistake, that it was unlawful, that it was immoral, that it wasn't worth the lives lost or the trillions that will be spent. Now, that is newsworthy that he would say it. It is newsworthy that so many Republicans would change their mind. It is newsworthy that people are starting to recognize that the government at almost all levels is out of control, and there is a need for the Alex Jones Show and for Freedom Watch to remind people, and when they know where to go, they will go to listen to what the government is doing to them.